Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of The Now What Show. I'm your host, Amber Christian, editor of Handmade Seller Magazine. Today, it is my privilege to welcome Daneen to the show, and this is going to be an exciting interview because Daneen has only been in business just a few months, and so we're going to talk about what that's like at that early baby stage of business when you're trying to figure so many things out. So, welcome to the show, Daneen, and can
Thank
you
you.
introduce yourself and share more about your business?
Okay, well, I'm Daneen. I am the owner of Second Life Garden on Etsy, and I make upcycled planters and things out of discarded teacups and vintage dishware and anything cute that a plant could be in.
All right, very cool. So tell me a little bit more about upcycling. Does that mean you go thrifting a lot? Are you hitting a lot of estate sales? How do you actually find the things
A little
that
bit of
you're
both.
using for your business? Okay.
I
Okay.
do a lot of I hit a lot of the local thrift stores. I have a few that are my favorites that I go to frequently. And I do a lot of online estate auctions. So that's actually my favorite place to get a lot of this stuff.
Oh, how do you find online estate auctions?
I just Googled it. It was like anything near me. And then I would start like keeping an eye on it and be like, okay, this might be worth it. And I give it a try and see what happens. And yeah, a few of them have actually been quite good for me.
Oh, interesting. So I haven't had anybody that shops via online estate sales. So
Yes.
that was a new one for me. So now you're repurposing things like teacups. How in the world did you decide to turn a teacup into a planter?
Well, I got bit by the houseplant bug and I went full in. As a lot of houseplant people know how that works. Um, but decorative pots are so expensive. And I've always been an active thrifter. I'd much rather shop at a thrift store than pay full price at a big box store. And I noticed that a lot of these thrift stores had full tea sets that were beautiful. And
Mhm,
I thought I could put a little plant in there and that'd be cute. So it just branched from there.
mhm. So you decide you want to put a plant in a teacup, but there's this little thing called drainage. Tell me
Yes.
about the first few experiments with setting up drainage in the cups and how many cups did you break?
Yeah, there was definitely a learning curve with it. I went through a few different tools to try to figure out how I could put a hole in these teacups. Broke quite a few until I found exactly, what works best. And even still, different materials work best with different tools. So there's still a lot of learning involved, but I think I've got it down.
Mhm. You're breaking less teacups at
I'm breaking
least.
less teacups, yes.
So how long does it actually take to drill a hole in a teacup?
And depending on the material, it can take like up to 15, 20, even more minutes just to make
Mhm.
sure that it doesn't break and there's not a whole lot of chipping and that it's aesthetically pleasing and not just like I just drilled a hole straight through a teacup.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, that's I never would have thought of the aesthetic nature of a hole in a drilled teacup,
Yeah.
but again, I wouldn't have thought of any of this before, so this is all incredibly interesting. So with the bottoms, do you like for a teacup, do you do like a standalone teacup and then they put it in their own holder, or do some of them come with the little plate that goes underneath? How do you decide which pieces you're going to sell, how you put all that stuff together?
Well, in the beginning, I was just like, oh, that's cute. Oh, that's cute. Oh, that's cute. And then I realized like these things need underplates. Just because it's cute doesn't mean it's really practical. So I started shopping for like just plain white plates or glass plates. But even then, I was like, this isn't, it could be better. So now I mostly focus on actual tea sets where they have the matching underplate with them just to
Mhm.
make it, I don't know, it's cuter that way, I think.
It's more aesthetically pleasing, as we were
Yes.
talking about, to actually have the matching plate for the teacup.
Yes.
And so then I take it you don't glue it down necessarily so that they
No.
can lift it up and dump it out and all of
Mhm.
that.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. So now you're starting to the houseplant thing has gotten out of control and now you're putting them in cute teacups. How did
Mhm.
this turn into a business? Like, talk more about that evolution of that journey of how you ended up deciding from looking at cute teacups and your houseplant obsession that this should become a business? What were the steps involved in that process?
Um, well, I just thought I think they're cute. Maybe someone else would think they're cute. And I started telling my friends about it, and they were like, "Oh, that's such an interesting idea." I was like, "People haven't thought about this, I guess." So it seems like there might be a place for me to push my wares.
Yeah, and it's amazing how much the impact of friends matters
Hmm.
in the conversation, and sometimes the reactions of friends. Because I talk to a lot of people that say, "My friends pointed out that's really cool," and I may have thought it was cool, but I wasn't sure if anybody else would think it was
Yeah,
cool
exactly.
or,
It's like,
or
is
would
it
be
cool just
interested in it.
because I made it, or is it actually something people like?
Right, exactly. And then you get some of that validation of that, no, that's actually really cool. You should do that.
Hmm.
And that seems like to be an early stage of a lot of businesses. And so if people listen to your friends and if they have cool ideas, encourage them. As I think
Yes,
maybe
be a supportive friend.
be a supportive friend because I think it matters more than I think a lot of people realize
Hmm.
in the start to a lot of these artisan businesses. So you decide that other people would think it's cool. So you start making some of these. And then you decided to tell us about how you decided to start selling them at the beginning.
Well, I am easily overwhelmed, so I wasn't sure even how to go about selling these because I was like, oh, I have to open a store and I have to make the listings and all these different details. I was like, oh, it's going to be too much. But my husband, thank goodness for him, he's very much the opposite, where he can break down little steps and make them sound really simple. And so he was basically like, just stop talking about it, actually do it. I can help you break down the steps a little bit. And yeah. So that's why I'm actually selling things now, is because he was able to help me get through the hurdles. And now
Mm-hmm.
it's not as difficult as it seemed in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, at the beginning, you're learning so many things. You're trying to figure out one, the actual making of the product is
Hmm.
its own whole set of things. So you work on kind of mastering that set of things. But then the actual selling of the product is a whole nother thing because then you have to think
Yes.
about your pricing, you have to think about your descriptions, your photography, your all these
Yeah,
other
there's so
things
many little
come.
steps that you don't think about until you're actually doing it.
Mhm. Yeah, like the second you go to do a listing, you're like, "I have to have a really nice photo." Oh, whoops. There's just all these little
Yeah.
steps that you have to do along the way in order for it to all work properly. And so it's always nice when someone kind of walks alongside you and be like, "It's it's not as bad as it sounds." Because
Hmm.
otherwise you can get analysis paralysis and you're like, "I'm
Yes.
stuck and I can't go forward." Um, so you got your Etsy shop up and running.
Hmm.
Did you do happy dance in your first sale?
Oh, absolutely. I told everybody, I was like, I got a sale. I called my mom, I was like, I got a sale. Everybody close to me knew when I got my first sale because I was that excited about it.
And I take it that was a stranger sale. Your first not friends and
Yes.
family buying from you? Oh,
Yes.
nice.
My first actual
Nice.
sale was my sister, which
Mm. Mhm,
I
mhm.
appreciate that from her. And she left me a nice review. So that was something to get it started. But yeah, once I got that second sale that was an actual stranger just coming across my things and liking it enough to pay money for it, that was a crazy feeling. It was very exciting.
Mhm. Yeah, and yet another I feel like this is tips for your friends that are starting businesses. Yet another good thing, go on their site, buy something, and leave a nice review. It
Yes.
helps it helps jumpstart that
Yes, it
process of
helps
selling for them.
tremendously
Yeah,
just to let
because
other people know that, yes, this is a real thing. It's a trustworthy business. They're doing what they are posting pictures of because you never know
mhm.
sometimes.
No, no, and just having even getting that whole review process started is an important part so that, like you said, people know you're real. It says some of that social proof
Hmm.
when it's a brand new newbie business. So yes, when you get your first stranger sale, that's always so
Very
exciting.
exciting. Yes.
So you're like, someone likes me, or at
Yeah.
least what I make.
Outside validation.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So now, how long have you been selling on Etsy?
I opened my shop in May, so not very long.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, this is great. It's like it's because that first year, right? You're learning so much.
So
You're
much. Yeah.
figuring out where to sell, and then how has building social media been for you since you're a
Well,
brand new business and you're having to build it all from scratch in today's environment? Talk a little bit more about
yes.
that.
Well, I started social media in May as well. Wasn't on Instagram or Facebook or any of the things. So I was jumping headfirst into that as well with opening my Etsy stores. So it's it's been interesting. It's been a learning experience as far as social media goes.
Did you feel like you stepped onto an entirely different planet and you
Oh,
didn't understand any of
absolutely.
the rules?
Nothing. I understood nothing. Like the hashtag thing and what does it mean to like something and what the hell is a reel? Like it was all I had no idea what I was doing and I still don't. I'm completely winging it.
Oh, I think most of us feel that way by the or we may know one platform, but then we're like, they say I have to be on all the others. And I was like, people are like, you really need to be on TikTok. And I'm like, I can't do it. I can't add
Yeah.
another one.
I
I'm gonna
haven't
just
touched
break.
TikTok yet because I was like, let me figure out Instagram and Threads first. Maybe I'll branch out into that at some point, but focus on what I'm doing right now.
Exactly, exactly. I'm like, I could do YouTube, but no TikTok.
Yeah.
I don't do that. Just I draw the line. I just can't. And I think we all kind of have those points. And a part of it's also where your audience is, right? So you're
Mhm.
in the first year. How's it going trying to figure out who your audience is? Because I imagine this first year, like you're figuring out who's going to buy this before you
Yeah.
can necessarily narrow in and market to them. So, what are you kind of learning about that now here at the beginning?
Well, yeah, a lot of it was finding my niche. Like I started, let me post a picture of my house plant in a cute teacup since that's exactly what I'm trying to do. And I got some traction and post some pictures of my plants and get some traction. But the other day, I actually posted a picture of some cute mushrooms I found outside. I thought I was like,
Hmm.
oh, that's in my niche. It's like outdoorsy things, and I lost followers on it, which I thought was so funny. It's like it's just cute mushrooms. I don't know. So I can't post cute mushroom pictures, I guess, or else I lose an audience.
That goes on the banished list.
Yeah, like I said, I'm very much learning who my audience is and what they like.
Hmm. And so, since you're selling online, I imagine it's also really difficult to figure out. I mean, yeah, you can see handles and things of followers, but it's a little hard to figure out why are they following you? What are they interested when it's 100% online, right? Because
Yes.
you're on Etsy and doing social media.
Hmm.
So, how are you approaching your strategy for selling in person? How are you starting to think about that?
Well, I actually have my first in person market coming up in November. I'm very excited, very nervous, but yeah, I have no idea what I'm doing in regards to that either. I'm just trying to get things stocked up so that I have things to actually sell when I get there.
Hmm.
I've heard from people like, "Oh, you have to set up your like do a mock-up booth before you leave." And I'm like, "Okay." Like I'm surveying people on Threads like what are they doing at their booth? Just taking notes from what I'm seeing
Hmm.
other people doing so that I'm not totally clueless when I get there.
And so now this first show, is that a show that runs every year? Is it a special one-off show? Tell us a little bit more about the first show that you decided to attend.
It's a yearly craft show that's on like Small Business Saturday after Black Friday. So
Mhm.
it sounds like a really good place to start with things. And
Mhm.
it's very local. It's right around the corner from my house. So that's helpful as well.
Okay. So you're starting to build a little more local audience, a
Mhm.
little more visibility so people know you exist and can follow you.
Mhm.
And then you also get that beautiful part of seeing who's picking it up, who's watching it, who's looking
Yes.
at it, who's buying
I
it.
didn't even think about that, but yeah, like physically seeing who my audience is.
Right. And when seeing if you find a pattern or not in that audience,
Yes.
and maybe it clusters around, maybe it doesn't cluster around certain demographics and there's other characteristics, and so then you might have to do a little more digger uh, de- um, digging deeper to figure out, what those characteristics are. But this is the beginning of it, of seeing, oh yeah, I can pick out that it's whatever particular gender, it looks like a particular age range, and they're all in. Or lots of people are buying this as gifts. They're not buying it for themselves, they're buying it for someone else. And
Mhm.
then you can start to develop your language around what are the patterns in in the people that are purchasing my products. And so it's so
Yes.
exciting to get to do
Yes.
that next step. And so after your show, we'll have to have you on a future episode to be like, how
Yeah.
did it go? What did you learn?
I'm
Because
sure I'll be learning
particularly,
lots.
oh yeah, I mean, when you're in the early stages, you don't have it all figured out. You are still trying to find a lot of things. And I think the first year of business, particularly with a lot of artisan businesses, because often the way that they start, it's something where someone started creating something kind of cool. People saw it, and they're like, oh, that's cool. And then they start selling it. Some businesses are created with all this grand intention and strategic plans, but a lot of them in the artisan world are not started that
Mhm.
way. They're started because somebody started doing something on the side and then ends up building it into a business. So there's a lot of it's almost like we come in through the side door in a lot of
Yeah.
cases. And you're like, "Oh, but now I'm here. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Now I
What
have
now?
all what do I do now?" Oh, so it's really fun to hear as people then evolve and then learn about their audiences, and then they can start to build upon them.
Mhm.
But does it ever feel like you're kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall the first
Oh,
year and just
absolutely. Yeah.
trying to see, what do people like, what do they not like, and or what do they pick up? And you're even testing price points on things as well,
Mhm.
trying to figure out if it flies off the shelf, you're like, well, I might have been able to price that higher.
Yeah.
You just don't
It's like, was I
know what you
leaving
don't
money on
know.
the table or
Right, or was it just perfectly priced?
Mhm.
So there's a lot of factors, I think, in those early days that also makes it exciting because you walk in
Yeah.
with a little bit of the wide-eyed wonder.
Mhm. Every day's
And
different. You never know.
exactly, exactly. So now, how do people follow you on social media, especially because they're going to want to know what happens after this craft fair?
Yes. So on Etsy, I am Second Life Garden. I'm the same thing on Instagram, second period life garden period underscore. And I am the same name on Threads. I'm most active on Threads, but I try to post on Instagram every day. But yeah, that's where
Mhm.
you can find me.
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Daneen, for joining
Thank
us
you.
today. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we will see you next time.